Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Ramblemancy. My name is Steve the Stegosaurus. I see lots and lots of friends in chat tonight. I see AJ and the Orangitis and Ike Man. Hello, hello. Terpanduin and Amethyst Cat Lady and Rosita Lagata. Incredible. Hello, it's good to see everyone. I'm glad my captions were at least working. The Rule of Lore boys are trying very hard to do all the things that they are doing tonight. But I am here to do the announcements. Uh, but I am a humble Stegosaurus. This week.
All right, anyway, that's enough of that. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Ramblemancy. As some of you clearly noticed, we forgot to remove our point redeems for the Raptor stream, and you got in on you realized that before we could do anything about it. So never let it be said that the Rule of Lore folks are not people of their word. Anyway, hi, everybody. Welcome to Ramblemancy. Tonight, we're coming in with some weird energy, so we figured we'd just, make the best of it. Thanks, Danny. um,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that. That was a gift. My arm and my hand are a little bit tired from holding that up there while Lucas cropped the scene and stuff out, but it's
did I make an
worth it.
entire duplicate scene and then crop the zoom window only for the meme? Yes. I think you'll find I did. Anyway.
Ellie, I'm so glad that you didn't miss this too. I'm truly overjoyed that y'all are here.
Welcome to tonight's episode of Ramblemancy. Tonight, we will be talking about dinosaurs. No, we're going to be talking about role-playing and storytelling in video games, which may or may not include dinosaurs. But before that, as John mentioned, and as the Stegosaurus mentioned, we have some announcements, probably. I know that I say that every time, but because my brain doesn't work. So, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time, for our patrons, we are having our second Patreon town hall meeting. We don't have a whole lot to talk about as that we didn't already talk about. So we're mostly going to be hanging out, just sort of chatting. Might chat about the channel a little bit. Might chat about, anything else. So yeah, that stuff is gonna, we're gonna do that. That's what we're gonna do tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific time by overwhelming demand on the poll. And if you would like to hang out with us tomorrow, hear about some of the stuff that we've got coming up in the channel, now is a great time to join our World Builder tier on Patreon, where you can build not only the worlds of our TTRPGs, but also the world here on Rule of Lore. I think that's it. I think that's our whole... Is that our only announcement? I think that's really the only thing that we've got going on right now.
Yeah,
I did announce last week that we are postponing production on our next Beyond the Roll. It's sad. We did our best, but also we can't. We have so many things that we're working on right now, and there's only so much that 3 people can do at a time. So that will be postponed until we have more time on our plates and manage to clear some of the projects out of production. So I'm hoping, don't quote me on this, but I'm hoping to have Beyond the Roll back on track in July at the latest. But yeah, so that's what's going on. In the meantime, we're still gonna be here, carrying on, doing the stuff that we do. I think that's everything. I don't think we have too much on our announcements. Docket.
No, not really.
That doesn't sound like a real word anymore.
Semantic satiation, my favorite little thing that happens to us.
Every once in a while we have that momentary awareness that language is made up and it throws us. Anyway, welcome everybody. Thank you all for coming and hanging out with us tonight. John, what do you got for us?
Tonight on Ramblemancy, we discuss that most ethereal of topics, storytelling and role-playing in video games.
We've reached the part of the stream where John once again forgot that, despite my doing this literally every time, forgot that I was going to throw him under the bus and uses his professor voice to stall.
Yeah, somebody can exclamation teacher in the chat for that one. But yeah, no, tonight we're talking about storytelling and role-playing in video games, which is a topic that we kind of, kicked around this Sunday and decided upon a little bit because at least, like several of us here on this call, not calling myself out, have spent time in video games, like particularly MMOs like RPing, which has on several occasions propelled me into writing some very fun stuff. And like writing some very fun like character studies and stuff. So I think that was kind of where we came from, but I think there's always kind of a fruitful conversation to be had about storytelling in video games, because it's a depending on the medium of the game and the like genre or style of the game, there's so many different ways that developers choose to deliver story to you, that it's just super fun to see how somebody does it. Like even for me in games, like I've been playing a lot of Risk of Rain 2 recently, and that game is really mostly just kind of a horde, like a roguelike horde shooter. But there are neat little bits of story here and there that you can pick up, and most of the storytelling is environmental and from little logs related to the items, where you can go and read like things about the stuff that you pick up, like an interstellar desk plant or like a literal crowbar. It's I don't know. The different ways that developers choose to sprinkle in like bits of story, I think is always fun to look for.
I'm here for this shade, and yes, I agree.
As long as you don't deliver the lore through a companion app completely disconnected from the game. Destiny.
Yep.
Wait, is that something? Does Destiny do that?
Apparently, they sure don't do it in the game.
Oh.
I know
Burn.
people are going to have opinions about this, and that's fine. You're allowed to have your opinions about it. I also have opinions about it. But yeah, I mean, like, this is like when we were talking about this, trying to like come up with this topic. Freeman, I think you mentioned when you pitched this idea for a topic, you mentioned like role playing your character in like Skyrim or some shit. Like that.
Specifically Skyrim for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because your character is, you don't know much about your character except that once you're the Dragonborn, that's like your whole identity, and that you snuck across the border and got caught by some Imperial soldiers, and now you're heading to the chopping block. But other than that, you don't know like what royal Argonian family you may have come from, or like what band of Khajiit caravan you may have been a part of. But you can like, I feel like it's fun to kind of make up that, like ad lib that in while you're playing. And I can only imagine that it's like it's got to be on an unlimited amount of like role playing potential there. Excuse me.
Yeah. No, definitely. Like, you do know that you're finally awake. Thank you, Ejafit. That's correct. You do know that about yourself in Skyrim.
Yeah.
Howard's done it again.
You're finally awake. All
That's
right.
so true.
Or if it's Morrowind, hey, wake up.
Really?
Yes, legitimately.
Oh, wow.
That is a thing. Okay, all right. Danny's speaking my language here. Role-playing in video games is so important. In Fallout 4, I collect children's toys and bring them back to my house and place them in Sean's room. Oh, no. That hurts. I feel you, though. Like,
cool.
Like, when I'm building settlements and whatever, I always refuse to place anything in Sean's room. I won't do it. I won't do it. It physically pained me when I accidentally scrapped Sean's crib once. That hurt me. It was a lot. I couldn't. Oof. Would Skyrim start being considered a cold open? Yes, I think so. Honestly, you know what's
It's
funny?
extremely cold.
It's
This is true.
I'll get out.
all right. All right.
So everyone, it's just me, and now I'm going to tell you. No. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I'll accept that.
Send us all to the pungeons. I'm sure
There
I
go
made
the
a pun today.
privileges. What was I gonna say? Oh, like yeah, I think about this all the time, right? Like there's a certain amount of like when I think about like you know role playing games, like or not role playing games, but like role playing, right? Role playing sort of basically being the act of sort of an act of empathy, right? In the grander scheme of things, right? Where you are essentially making choices and like through the head of someone else. You're putting yourself in the mind of someone who is not you and making those choices. Um and like to clarify, I'm not saying that like you are necessarily doing this if you are playing Skyrim or Fallout or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this is specifically in the case where that is the thing that you are doing. Um but yeah, like so I think about like thinking about like making the choices in game, right? Like oftentimes quests will offer you like here's the simple way that involves killing lots of people, and here is the slightly more complicated way that means you don't kill somebody, and like that is a role-playing choice, right? Like on some level you're sort of thinking about, I think it's a little bit like you sort of imposing yourself on the character, so it's like role-playing with like the little m, right? But or with little m, where did the m come from? Role playing with an M. That's how it was spelled. It's not even an M in that word.
I love it though.
I genuinely do not know where that came from.
Rule of lore. We put the M in role playing.
Role playing.
We put the M in role playing because there wasn't one there already. Role playing.
Role playing.
All right.
Role play.
Role playing.
Anyway.
Oh my god.
I think that's a good sign that somebody else should talk.
Well, Danny's I think we would be remiss if we didn't address the Goblin verse tonight, and Danny's been talking about it in chat. Danny said, yeah, John can go into an entire tangent about role playing in video games, even without much serious story or plot with the Stardew Goblins. Like, yeah, like I think part of the reason that role playing in video games in that way, even in games that have very little like story necessarily ascribed to them or the character, like it's sort of because like the video game provides this framework of little prompts for you, but doesn't fill in all of the gaps. Like Stardew Valley, if you look at the plot of that game, it's fucking wild. A bunch of little nature spirits pop up and like in the middle of the night in what could easily be a hallucination or a weird dream, or like, you have to rebuild the community center. And like everyone's like, I'm sorry, you saw what? And now all of a sudden you're doing this, and like you do just a bunch of kind of wild things, like you just haul around a gajillion rocks and like dig shit up out of the ground on your little farm, and sometimes it's like just a piece of clay, and sometimes it's like an ancient dwarven mechanism, and there's really never any explanation of these things or like why some of the things in the game will happen, or like suddenly there'll just be random mystical elements to it. And like the only recourse that I have in this situation is to just be like, you know what would make a lot of sense here? What would make a lot of sense is if the main character of this story was actually just a little monster. Like and so once I start viewing it through that kind of lens, now I'm like, yes, the just patent whimsy of everything going on here just makes sense. It clicks. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, there's a bunch of slimes chasing me around in this otherwise perfectly normal mine. Yeah, this makes sense because I am a tiny frenzied little goblin who is trying to collect shiny things from underground, you know. And sometimes when you do this in front of a camera, all of a sudden everyone else has their own little like goblin farmers. And now we have just like a whole collective of us. And it is fascinating to me that this game that has its very own kind of bare bones story to it, that is basically just a chores simulator, has through role play basically spawned this network of like interrelated goblin stories, because something wild will happen on somebody's farm, and then they will decide that this means something about their character, their Stardew character. And now like there's something been added to the lore. Like Danny's playing a like anti-goblin, like a capitalist elf to counteract all of the crazy like goblin shenanigans, and like their farm is immaculately organized with signs and pathways and gates. Like,
Yeah, I absolutely think that like the more people are on a game, if it's like a co-op game or not, it is going to make it even more fun. Because like Lucas, we used to kind of do a little bit of role playing with Minecraft.
That's right.
Easily, we would put all kinds of lore into our world. Yeah, and Minecraft is one of those games where it's so easy to do because it's there's not a lot of lore. I mean, I'm sure there is more stuff going on now. I haven't played for years. So, but back then there was so much potential to like insert things that you know your character might have, or like things about the world that you could just make up.
Yeah,
which is
like,
so cool.
I remember there was one time where there was a whole group of us that we were exploring, but we basically like had sort of divided ourselves into like the classic, game roles, right? Like we had the warrior, and we had like the cleric, because we had a whole bunch of like healing potion bombs, and that we just would throw at each other, and like and so there's like the cleric, and then we had like, or really just the wizard, I think, because there was a bunch of different like bombs that they had that we were like, ah, yes, these are your spells, and that kind of stuff. And we had like the archer, and yeah, like and then we just like went questing, but yeah, but you do bring up a good point, and I think that's really interesting. Like when you talked about when there's more people involved, and something that Ike said earlier, although it was part of the joke, that the running gag that was happening, MMORPGs and role-playing guilds were like where I lived. Like that was for me. I know there's lots of people who like went and like played World of Warcraft for the like raids and the PvE content. I played World of Warcraft for the role-playing, and that's what got me into that. And it's also what like think like playing through like even like leveling up in World of Warcraft, it was like me establishing my character's story in the world, and I was like thinking about like their story as I was questing through the world, and sort of incorporating elements of like, oh, what is my character doing in this region, and then I would like bring that into the like RP side of it, right, when I was like RPing with other people. Anyway, it's just um Ike says, I found that if it comes to open world multiplayer survival games, I always adopt the role of I craft stuff for everyone else. See, I'm the engineer, I'm the builder. I'm not the one who's crafting stuff, but I build shit. Like these two can tell you. Freeman turned his back on me when we were playing Empyrean. Freeman turned his back on me for like 2 minutes, and he came back, and I had like a fully working like land vehicle.
Yep.
Yeah. See, like it's one of the reasons that like when we do play survival crafting games together, I enjoy playing with them, because my favorite thing to do is fucking around and finding out and coming back with stuff and going, I will never have the stamina to figure out what to do with all of these things, but you do. So here, take these fascinating things that I have found. I saw a weird thing over there, and I'm gonna go kill it, or it's gonna eat me. I don't know which. Like
Yeah, like that's
and then occasionally I'll turn interior hallways into monuments to my own vanity.
Let's see.
Oh, I'm blurry.
Littlest Drummer, that's why I liked WoW too. Yeah, exactly. The role-playing community in WoW is, well, I was going to say is great, but as with any aspect of massively multiplayer games, it's a mixed bag. You you can find the good side of it, and you can find the not so great side of it, and I have found both. I was lucky enough to find the good side of it in both WoW and in Star Wars: The Old Republic, which is like where I've spent the most amount of time doing any kind of like role playing stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's Rose says in Minecraft and Stardew, it's fun to consider how my PC ended up starting completely over all alone. Yeah, exactly. And I do like that there's some of those like open world survival crafting games actually do get, like the Forest, for instance, gives you like a little bit of like backstory. Like you're on a plane, and never mind. I was sorry. I was about to start explaining the backstory that the Forest gives you, but then I remembered that I didn't care and wasn't paying attention. So. But like the point is that it does give you that a little bit, and it's sort of like, so you, like during the Forest, you're like building and you're surviving and crafting, or in my case, you're just crafting. The surviving part is optional. The
As it turns out, it's even easier to forget to eat in video games when there's not like a bodily thing that happens to you.
Listen. But yeah, but there is, but like throughout, there's also like this sort of backstory that has given, not backstory in the sense that like this is what you specifically are doing, but like background. It's not just like you're on an island, unexplained sort of thing. Good luck, right? Like there's a reason that gives you like, I think you should even start out on the plane in the Forest. I don't think I had a point about that. I was just talking about the Forest and how it's terrifying.
It is. Yeah. I haven't gotten to the most terrifying parts yet because I haven't played in a while.
I know.
That's what I was saying. The newest edition of Skyrim plus some mods allowed me to be a proper necromancer, and I go around collecting bones and gathering arcane knowledge. Oh, that sounds cool as hell.
That's cool.
Oh, I'm getting through here. I have a hard time being mean to the fictional pixel people, but my favorite dark side choices in SWTOR are my ex-Jedi telling a former ally, "You've suffered enough." Oh.
Incredible. Yep.
Danny says, I remember watching a stream of Drawfee Peeps playing WoW Classic, one of them with a high-level maxed out numbers guy, and the new guy named Lay's Potato Chip, who asks people about their fashions and dreams of getting their brand new character to a big city so they can get the tailor profession.
Absolutely amazing. That actually reminds me, like, there's quite a few people. I've never done it because I don't play, but like, there's quite a few people who play Red Dead online, who role play. Like, in fact, I've seen people stream it, like role playing, Red Dead 2 online or whatever the fuck it is.
That's cool.
And from what I've seen, it looks really fucking cool, and like it would be a lot of fun. But yeah, especially with like voice chat. That's one thing that I've never actually done. Right? I've never role played in an MMO with voice chat. Or like always, it was always through text. Because I think I at the time I would have felt weird role playing over voice chat. But now that voice chat is such a like ubiquitous part of our everyday existence, like we played D&D through like voice chat and whatever. So like it's this bizarre like like we take the role playing, which came from like the analog offline kind of thing, online through the medium of like, you know, World of Warcraft, and then we take it to the spoken medium via digital, but we become comfortable from the analog, and it's so weird and convoluted, but I love it.
Intersectionality is so wild. Just like, oh yeah, like wow. It's because I hadn't quite thought about it that way, because I don't think that I would have been like back in the days when we were doing like our Guild Wars 2 like MMORP. I don't know if I would have been like super comfortable like speaking out a bunch of it. There were a lot of times where we were on a Discord call, but we were still typing our responses to each other.
Yeah. Oh, actually, no. Let me back up, John. because we were in fact on a TeamSpeak server.
Oh my god! Oh no! Oh god! No, that's I hate that. I hate that. Oh.
I know, right? It's
Team
terrible.
Speak. Oh man!
I don't
like,
even know. I'm not familiar. I've not gone there.
That's for the
I missed it. I heard that it was bad and I didn't go there.
Yeah,
That's
no.
what I think happened. That was the
It's
progression
for
for
the
me.
best.
It wasn't as bad as Mumble or Vent.
Yeah.
Those were both also truly terrible. Oh man, I remember playing hours of Path of Exile on Mumble.
Man, see, the last time I got really into it, this is interesting because the last time I got really into an MMO, Discord wasn't really a thing. And so I wonder, man, so, cause like, you know, we would have like the guilds would have like, you know, Ventrilo or like, or, you know, TeamSpeak, whatever. And they would have those, but how wild would it be to have like a Discord for, right? Cause then you keep the like guild stuff offline too, right? Even when you're not in game, like you can still be like, man, I never thought about that. This is me in real time, live on the internet, having an epiphany about. Like I guess I just did. I mean, not that I have not gotten into MMOs since then. It's just like I typically prefer to play alone when I'm playing an MMO. But yeah,
I don't know. It'd be so much easier to organize like an RP server, or like an RP guild with a Discord than it would have been with like Mumble or TeamSpeak or Ventrilo. Like, just because of the nature of, I mean, we all have experience doing it now because of being content creators and working with Discord a whole bunch. But also, just like Discord's really like well laid out for that kind of thing. Like, you can use it for work, you can use it for like RP stuff like that, where you can kind of separate out like in character, out of character, above table, like, hey, raid night, like.
Yeah, and like adding roles and stuff like that, having bots for having people opt into stuff. So like, yeah,
there are a lot of ways that you could automate that kind of thing too.
It's so weird, right? Because like Discord has been such a integral part of at least our lives, you know, basically since it started, pretty much. That like it's easy to forget that that's a relatively recent thing.
Yeah.
Like Discord. In fact, it's like its video and like streaming functionality what didn't exist before like a couple years ago.
I know. I remember when the streaming functionality for Discord was like a hot little thing that like just random Discord servers were getting to test out. You know, and like for some like my brother was like, yeah, I was streaming this for Logan on Discord, and I was like, his girlfriend, I was like, you were what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird to think of the things that we have so easily now that there was a time when they weren't there. Like I always thought that there was a like button on Facebook for the longest time, that whole time, but it was actually like in 2009 that they had a like button, or at least they brought the share button in. I'm not sure, I can't remember, but something weird like that.
Yeah. So weird. So I'm having like a moment of cognitive dissonance here. Give me a second.
Yeah, all the three of us like content create, like being a content creator low-key requires some level of social media addiction, and so all of us are just simultaneously remembering what it was like when our lives didn't revolve around Discord.
I don't think I do. Like I only had a Twitter like when Rule of Lore started. I got a Twitter for like so I could be on doing stuff with. I didn't have a Twitter before.
Actually, it was even before that, barely.
Was it really?
Because it was when we went to Gen Con. It's when we went to Gen Con, so that you could like, because that's, listen, if you're going to Gen Con, be safe. But also, if you're going to Gen Con and you don't have, and you don't have a Twitter, I can't exactly recommend you get one for any reason, but what I will say is that Twitter is the way that we found out about stuff that we would not, because like if you look at there's an events list online, but God, it's so fucking big, and you just like, anyway, that's super unrelated to anything.
Now I remember we were taking a break from, it was the first Gen Con we went to, and we were taking a rest on, I think, I'm not sure which hall it was, where there was food and there was also a coffee place, but we were just chilling, and I was just making my Twitter there as we were like taking a break from the scene.
Mhm.
That's cool. That's crazy. I didn't even I don't remember that. Huh.
I did want to point out something coming back to the topic that Ike said about bringing up Red Dead Redemption 2 as an example of why I prefer to play games where I play as a predefined character instead of make your own. I think I kind of have come to this realization myself as well. Like, obviously, I will always love a game. Like, I will always prefer a game for my own enjoyment where I make my own character because I am addicted to character creation and character
What?
creators.
No.
However, when it comes to like narrative and story, hey, look at that, me bringing it back around to the actual topic at hand. I think I agree with you. I prefer like a predefined character because it's easier for there to be characterization when the character is defined, and that means the writers can know, like the game writers can know, like how to write the character. That said, I thought this might be a controversial opinion, but I think Fallout 4 did a pretty good job of that. Like, yes, you get to make your own character, but they have like voiced dialogue, right? Like the character has voiced dialogue, but they're your own character, but they're voiced dialogue, and they did a good job, I thought, of like the both in the okay, in the writing, in the voice directing, and in the voice acting. They did a great job of giving you a bunch of different options that actually make the character feel like you can kind of have a characterization. What were we talking about? Who were we talking about this with? Like Mass Effect. How Shepard is, regardless of like which Shepard you play, the voice direction for that game sort of makes, like, this is not a comment on the voice actors at all because like they're both, like, Mark
Right.
Meir and Jennifer Hale are incredible, but like uh Shepard always kind of comes across as very like their lines are so like, I don't know, there's no personality, you know? There's no personality in
Mhm.
those lines.
Mhm.
Because I think Shepard is a little bit supposed to be sort of in between, right? Like the predefined character with a like story and stake, but also the one that you, the player, determine. And it didn't go well, right? Rather than giving you a bunch of different options for how your character would react to different situations, they just sort of flattened it.
Mhm.
So
I
that,
should go.
yeah, I
Right.
should go. I should go. All
I
right.
should go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
I think it maybe is possible to strike a balance there, but I think that is a good point that like you kind of do have to go a little bit one way or the other, and either this character is mostly a blank slate that we then provide prompts for the player to fill in as they play,
Mhm.
or this character has kind of a lot of their own thing going on, but the player gets to like have more maybe like moment to moment agency. I feel like V in Cyberpunk 2077 is like, from I haven't played through that game as many times as you have, Lucas, but I do kind of appreciate the way that like V has their own thing going on. Like you're playing very clearly, you get to decide what V looks like and all of that stuff. Like the character customization for that is incredible, but you do kind of like, you're kind of locked into V's story,
Mm-hmm.
and you do have like a little bit of agency over like the little minutia of V's life, like by what kind of build you choose that can or like what cyberware
Mm-hmm.
you use can, I think, like will affect your physical appearance. And that's like, those are like small little things that then you kind of have control over, and you can kind of decide then what that means for V and how they play and what kind of person they are within the box that you've been given by CDPR for this kind of greater story, or this kind of character who has their own thing going on.
Right. Uh, oh
Mhm.
yeah, Danny, exactly. The like, you can, you play the sole survivor, but the sole survivor can be whoever you want to be. I really like that. Yeah. Um, you dress up as the Silver Shroud or Grognek the Barbarian and get all those silly bonus dialogue options. Yeah. Nico, this is a really good point. Shepard's dialogue is written like they're an avatar, while the story treats them as a character. Yes, that I think is sort of, this is why. Listen, we all know Mass Effect Andromeda. I enjoy the gameplay of Mass Effect Andromeda, but I wasn't a huge fan of the story. However, what I will say about Mass Effect Andromeda is I thought that their approach to dialogue was interesting. Did it achieve what they wanted it to achieve? I'm not sure, but I thought it was interesting because it moved us away from the binary, like good guy, bad guy, like binary dialogue choices, right? Like the good choice, the bad choice, and the neutral choice, right? Like the not making a choice. It moved us away from that because it for those of you who are not aware of the Mass Effect Andromeda dialogue thing, different dialogue options uh, are sort of like different aspects. I think Dragon Age Inquisition did this a little bit too. Different dialogue options have different like advanced sort of different personality traits. Not that it has a mechanical effect on the game, but it was interesting, right? Because you can at various points look at your character's psychological, like their personality profile, and see how like your choices are doing. It doesn't, as far as I could tell, it doesn't seem to affect anything in the game, but uh other than like the outcomes of dialogue, right? But like your personality profile doesn't seem to affect or anything. I could be wrong. I tend not to, do that. But yeah, yeah. My brain, sorry, just shut off because I was reading chat. Um,
Danny saying Pokemon, when they continue dialogue like, where did you come from? ... Is that so? Well, welcome to, because they can't have you say no. Yeah, I like that. The Pokemon approach to dialogue and stuff is one that's fascinating to me because like clearly the character says something there, but they do not bother to write it. They just write ... and then you have to press the A button to advance. And then I guess it's supposed to be like you get to decide what the character says or you get to decide how you respond, but they always respond as though you have said something very specific, which I think is very funny. Because like there's no dialogue option. Like, are you going to tell me where you're from? And you just go, no, I don't know you. You're a stranger with a giant electric rat behind you. What's happening? Like, that's not a dialogue option that I have. Everyone is just enthusiastically like into what's going on here.
yeah, the tricky thing with having like the main character, right, be one that you can like customize, but also has like variety, like, and you can choose what they say, but there's a variety of like voice lines, like that they're all voiced. The tricky thing is having voice direction. I think Mass Effect, like the original Mass Effect trilogy, fails at this, but having like the dialogue options be delivered in ways that sort of allow you to essentially make choices about what your character's personality is, right? Like Fallout 4 does this. Like there's like it tells you like it doesn't like make you choose between specific lines of dialogue. It'll say something like sarcastic or say good or something, and then you click on it and then the character will say something, right? Like a full voice line that's sort of in the realm of what you selected. And I think that's a really interesting thing because it basically like in a way is better than the specific voice line, right? Because like or with like given like a prescribed voice line, because it's making you make choices about your character's personality, and I think that's really cool and interesting. You know, and like
That is
that
cool.
doesn't have to, and it doesn't have to affect anything in the game mechanically, right? It's literally just you, and it's role playing. It's you're deciding who this character is. Like, are they the sort who's just going to? Because you can play Fallout 4 and just answer the sarcastic response every single time, not based on a real example. That I just you can do that, and it's great.
Listen, when I was playing Outer Worlds, I immediately maxed my persuasion and my deception. So just partly because, oh wow, surprise, John wants to play a charismatic character. Who could have guessed? But also just because like being able, like having more dialogue options was so important to me. I love being able to choose from the normal array of dialogue options, and then also whatever absolutely bananas shit would be over on the lie end of things. Like,
Yeah. Yes, exactly, Rose. Swotor is the one I was trying to remember where that's the case, where it will like say give you like the little snippet and it's like it's very deceptive sometimes where you're like, all right, yes, this is the reasonable thing to do, and I'll just click on that, and then your character says something that is just like the complete opposite of how you interpreted what that little snippet of like thing said. It's like it's always so frustrating. The number of times I've accidentally gained dark side points for doing that.
you're like, oh, this seems like good dialogue. This is cool. That sounds nice. And then you click it and it's like, you have gained dark side points. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, because it's just like not at all how I interpreted what they were giving me, the preview that they were giving me. Yeah, yeah. But all that sort of stuff is like, it's all like that is role playing, right? Like to the extent that you can get it to happen in like something pre-written like a video game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's making those choices, and I think any game that gives you those options to make those choices about who your character is, what they're like even The Witcher, right? Even The Witcher 3 gives you options. Like you can play Geralt as the very like tight-lipped, like doesn't open up, doesn't say what's on his mind to anyone, right? Or you can like it's in the opening sequence where you're like hanging out with Vesemir, and Vesemir's like asking you like, "Hey, are you okay?" Like I'm like, you could just be like, "Yeah, I'm fine, just I'm just fine," right? Or you can be like, "I had a bad dream," right? And then Geralt actually like explains, and that's a choice that you're making about the character, and I think that's really cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's you. It is a pre-established character, but you are still making choices about who you think that character should be, and I think that's cool. That's role playing, baby.
I like that. I like that.
Um,
I better play some Witcher soon. I keep
yeah,
meaning to.
yeah.
I haven't that ship has not sailed yet. I can still probably be very interested in that because the show came out, and
Here's the recommendation that I will give you: read a plot synopsis of the first Witcher game, and then start with The Witcher 2.
Yeah. There's a few games I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah, read a plot synopsis of The Witcher, and
Yeah.
then play Assassin of Kings, and then play The Wild Hunt, because yeah, that first game, I love it, but it's rough. I acknowledge that.
I like The Witcher is one of those series where like after watching the Netflix show, I am like very interested in what's going on here, and I do want to go back and play the games now. So I think I'm gonna have to like take that advice and go read. And like I want it to be clear that I am a person who will go and read the plot synopsis of a game on the wiki for fun sometimes, when like if a friend of mine is playing a game and I'm like, this looks interesting, but I will never play it, I will go and I will, just for funsies, I will read the wiki about that game because I'm a nerd. So like I don't know, I'm about that. Also, I love world building.
Yeah. Yes, Ike, this is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. Dialogue choice. Thanks. Actual line. Thanks for nothing, I guess. Yes, exactly that kind of thing. That's what I'm talking about.
The Witcher. Come for the characters, stay for the Gwent.
Edge of it. That's a fair piece of advice. I was specifically giving advice to Freeman because I think Freeman would still enjoy The Witcher 2. But I think that's fair. Witcher 2.
Yeah.
Actually, the early Witcher games are not open world. Like, The Witcher 2 is kind of open area, kind of, not really, but yeah. So like The Witcher 2 is a very different game. The Witcher 3, I remember when that was announced, and it was like it's gonna be an open world game, and that was like a huge fucking deal, and like, and that's why I remember like the trailer for it focused on like Geralt riding a horse and Geralt in a boat, because that was so completely different from anything that we had seen before from the Witcher series. But yeah, semi-open area, I would say. But
that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I love open world completely. I love to be able to roam and take a shortcut if I need to, and not be I have to go this certain way
Yeah.
to get here and
Yeah,
there.
and
So
unfortunately, that is a little bit The Witcher 2, but The Witcher 3 makes up for it in being, open world. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, that is what I had to say about The Witcher.
but if the open world comes at the cost of there being really good story stuff, then
Right, I wouldn't say that that's the case in The Witcher 3, but
mhm.
it definitely is in. Oh gosh, the Metro games.
Yeah.
So in the last one, Metro Exodus, it loses a lot when you are playing. I don't know, it just loses a lot when you are playing in a more open world or open environment kind of
Hmm.
game. Like the first two games, I loved them. Like I played through them recently, and the first two games were really really good because because it's like linear environments. No, so here's why like the Metro games worked really well. The first two anyway. I still enjoyed Metro Exodus, but it it was odd for a lot of reasons. But the main one is like what you just described, Freeman, right? Like the fact that it's
Mhm.
the open world sort of coming at the cost of the story. And the main reason why, so like the first two games worked really well. One, because they had a lot of environmental storytelling, a lot of it, and they could get away with that because they knew the path that you were going to be taking, so they knew exactly where they can where they could put
Oh.
some of that environmental storytelling stuff. It was it felt very intentional. But playing those first two games, even though it was very clear there was like an obvious linear path through most environments, it never felt like that. Even though I intellectually was aware of that, the feel of the game was not one where it felt like you were being forced through but there was a lot of environmental storytelling that took place. And I remember, I don't know, John, if you watched me do this, but I remember there were
Mhm.
lots of instances when I was playing through those games where it never explicitly stated something that happened in like one particular room, but by looking at the room you could figure it out.
Yep.
And it wasn't foreshadowing of something that came later that then it would like explicitly tell you. It was just like a thing that was completely incidental. There was like a room, and like it was decorated in a specific way, like there was, and you could tell exactly what that room was, exactly what had happened there before you got there, all this sort of stuff. It was so well done. And when Metro Exodus came out and they went for like more open environments,
You
it
lost it.
lost a lot. It lost a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah. Also, can somebody please explain? Somebody who's played Metro, can please explain to me how the main character Artyom dies at the end of the second one, but then is like mysteriously just alive in the third one, and it is a sequel, and you are still playing Artyom. And nobody acknowledges the fact that you sort of died at the end of. Anyway,
Mhm.
yeah.
Shenanigans.
Ike asks, what is your favorite video game storytelling technique that isn't cutscenes?
All right. Okay. Okay.
We've been talking a little bit about environmental storytelling, and I think that's one of my personal favorite aspects of video games and like the non-cutscene things. Like I remember Colin and I would make use of our a lot of our time home alone playing through like Halo 2 and Halo 3 and Halo Reach and going like playing through the entire campaign. But like, we'd played those campaigns on Legendary a whole bunch of times with a bunch of different like difficulty modifiers on and stuff. And so like we would just for fun like go around and explore every like little nook and cranny that we could, and each of us, between the two of us, read like a few of the books and stuff. And so like it was fun to look through like these environments that had been designed, and pick up additional little pieces of storytelling, just little bits of like, okay, so you've been dropped in here. Well, why is there like a UNSC weapon for you to pick up ammo from? Oh, like there was some like, and you'll see like there'd be like a crash, like a landed like shock trooper pod or something, and then like a few of the supplies out of it, or like just a room a little bit off the beaten path in a building that like had that like clearly has somebody had lived in before. I don't know, just like those little like bits of environmental storytelling, just like little things along the way that like either make the game world make sense, or that just like will add some, if you stop for a minute to take a breath and look at it, that will kind of richen the experience just a little bit. That's my favorite
So
like thing in video games, to go and hunt down.
I'll also say environmental storytelling, but specifically, I like the kind of environmental storytelling that tells you something about the world that you're in, um, and about what it's like there. Like Cyberpunk 2077 does this really well in a lot of instances. Um, there's a whole video that I think I posted it a while back. There's a video on this very specific topic, actually, on storytelling and like through Cyberpunk 2077. But one of the things is like early on in the game, somebody hands you a data shard, right? And they don't ask you if you have like the receiver for it, right? They just give it to you and your character takes it. Like there's no dialogue option for what's this, right? It's just like, and so what that tells you about the world is that that's a very commonplace thing that everyone in the world has. It's establishing sort of the level of like what's as common as having a cell phone is today, right?
Mm-hmm.
What in this world that you are brand new to, that is alien to you, the player, is common about the world. And I think I like that kind of storytelling. I like the kind of storytelling that allows me, the player, to draw my own conclusions about the world without it being just sort of like spoon fed to me, right?
Yeah.
Like if like in it always bugs me when dialogue in video games tutorializes you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like the dialogue, and I love that Cyberpunk doesn't do that. At least not in
Nope.
any way, at least not in an overt way, right? There is a literal tutorial in Cyberpunk, but it's given to you in the game as like you take a shard and it's a training shard, a Militech training shard that you like slot in, and then you're in like a virtual environment where you are like practicing combat techniques. And so it's like it is a tutorial, but it's right. And so like you're being
Mhm.
led through a tutorial, but it's through the lens of the world rather than like somehow somebody in like it's like it like the like an NPC telling you press the space bar in order to like that's not yeah. So anyway,
Yeah. Danny posted some big
Hmm.
messages. Let's see. Right. I just want to review what Danny said earlier. John's charisma thing makes me think of a dystopian teen novel I read as a kid that was called Epic. The setup is they're like settlers of the last of humanity on a space colony. There was a video game reality used to entertain people on the generations of space travel over. And it's still the basis of their society. Like PvP and questing and leveling determines your opportunities in life. The main character dies and he's like, fuck it, I'll do a little thing for fun. So he makes a character with all his points into charisma and appearance. And so he has a charismatic woman who looks real like the NPCs do, and not the PlayStation polygonal like gray blobs of min-maxed every other player. He discovers dialogue options and luck options with the NPCs that nobody's known about for generations, because nobody's bothered with charisma for NPC interaction since it didn't matter to them in the way that society used the game. So his brand new character fights and charms and helps distract and defeat a dragon because of his charisma. And then the people up top notice him, and dystopian teen novel plot occurs. And
amazing.
that
Hmm.
that sounds like exactly the kind of like a little bit trashy but kind of interesting teen dystopian novel that I maybe would have been into. What was that called? It's called Epic. Okay, cool.
Let's see. I said I think my favorite example of how side stories and world exploration can affect the story is in RDR2. If you do a set of side stories in San Denis and have good honor, you will run into the sister at the train station, and so Arthur's dialogue is different. Not everyone gets that path of the story, but to me, it feels like the true path because it was so impactful to me. Yeah, that's really cool stuff. I love that. Like even in Mass Effect, like for me, there is like there are certain choices that you make in Mass Effect that like are choices that not everybody can achieve or can get, right? Because it depends on things that happened in earlier games, right? So like depending on how those like who survives the suicide mission at the end of Mass Effect 2, right? You might not have certain options available to you, but there are certain things that feel like the real story to me in Mass Effect, even if it's something that like you know people might not get that. So I do understand what you're saying, and I think that is I agree. I think that's really cool. Um, especially in games that like facilitate that kind of thing, right? I think this is my hot take about video games and storytelling is that my hot take about video games and storytelling is that I think so often the development philosophy behind games is that all players must have like we don't want to take any options off the table for anybody. We want to let them play how they want. And I think that is often to the detriment of the story, right? Because one of the things I loved about my first playthrough of Mass Effect is that uh that when I first played through it, a bunch of people died in the suicide mission. Like let's see, Jack didn't make it. I think Morden died. Thane died. Like all these characters died, and that, of course, had sort of disastrous consequences. Right, it sort of limits your options in Mass Effect 3. Right, a totally different game limited your options in this game, and I thought that was incredible, right? Like it made the story so much more interesting because now you're forced to make harder choices. Things are way easier in Mass Effect 3 if everybody has survived for the other games. Things are way easier. But that wasn't the case in and so I think so often like the development philosophy is like we do not want to close off any of the options. We don't want to take any of the options off the table. And that what that means is that like choices don't matter. So then why
Right.
have them? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Mass Effect 2, I didn't realize that your reaction time to your crew being taken mattered, so I finished all the side content first. Oh no. Oh,
Oh
Ike.
shit. Oh.
I'm so sorry. Rip Dr. Chuckwes.
Oh no.
Yeah. Um
No.
yeah.
Orange had a question up above.
Mm-hmm. I missed it.
What is your favorite style of merging gameplay with story? Edgefit said, I hate QuickTime events.
Merging gameplay with story. Yeah, I think that is the question, isn't it? You know, like there's I'm trying to think of what. Yeah, I also hate QuickTime events. They can be
Yeah.
useful, but if you have a whole game built on QuickTime events, then like get the fuck out of here with that shit. Um,
Yeah, like if you're gonna throw me into a cutscene, I honestly would almost rather you throw me into a
just
cutscene.
put me in a cutscene, man.
Just
Like,
let me take my hands off the keyboard and be shocked at what's happening now.
perfect
Like,
example of when QuickTime events go bad. Any of the new Tomb Raider games.
I was exactly the same thing, Lucas. I was like, okay, no, there's plot happening right now. I want to know what happens. I do not want to be looking frantically for the prompts like on screen to push the right button at the right time.
Listen,
so if I miss them, I just have to watch these gleefully animated like fucking sequences of Lara dying horribly. Like, I don't like it.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
Like, QuickTime events, man. Like, anyway, we're not gonna get into that.
Oh man, the new Tomb, like, what is it? Rise of the Tomb Raider, or is it Shadow of the Tomb Raider? Is the one that I'm thinking of. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I really enjoyed playing that game, except for the fucking QuickTime events. I hate them so much.
Yeah. Thanks, John. We'll see you later. Thanks for being here.
Bye, John.
Yeah. I think the worst part about it is that they actually got better about that as they went on. Like the first one, like I played through them all, and by the time I'd finished the third one, I'd gotten kind of used to like how that one plays, and then I was like, oh, I haven't played the first game in a really long time. I'm kind of interested to see like now that I'm like actually used to this style of gameplay, how I like. Right, so I went back to the first one and oh my god, it's so much worse. I'd like forgotten how bad it was, like all
Mhm.
the deaths and oh god, yeah. And like so many of those deaths are as a result of being bad at QuickTime events. So if you're bad at the QuickTime event, it's like just put me in a goddamn cutscene. Put me in a cutscene. Don't make me do this over and over again.
It's painful to play and painful to watch.
I know, like, well, and it always would be like it, it was like shoot, like sneak and shoot your way through like this army of goons to get to this point to trigger like a 45-second cutscene, and I'm like, oh, thank God. And then my controller starts vibrating. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like,
Yeah, I agree. I think QuickTime events should only branch the scene, not end it if you fail. Yes, I agree. Mass Effect is pretty good about that, right? Not like QuickTime events exactly. I mean, they kind of are, where it's like, click now to do the Paragon option, right? And like, or whatever.
yeah, I do like that.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk does some of that too, where there'll be like random like moment where you have like a time limited thing, and you can be like, do you want to shoot this guy in the head or hear him out? Like,
Ellie said, I've been enjoying Elden Ring's story so far. Not good at the game, but loving it. The main story is still gonna story, but you have choices on how you get there. Yeah. I think that's also important, right? Like not necessarily like choices matter doesn't necessarily mean that the outcome changes, but like choices mattering, like if like you have a game where choices matter, having the how be important. I think that's cool, even if the what doesn't change. Having the how, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. I don't know if that's something that I will ever play. Who knows? We'll see. Um, Rose said, I hate when games give you choices that are only impactful because of the player's emotions. Like the PC would care 0% about this. Do you have an example of that? I'm curious. Because I think I know what you mean, but I think I'm having a hard time. Choices that are only impactful because of the player's emotions, because the PC would care. Yeah, do you have an example? I'm curious. It sounds like you might have something specific in mind.
I think I kind of know vaguely what you mean. Like, there's something
Fucking
that like
Revan. Okay, all right. Okay. Fair.
QuickTime events are the game forcing you to play Dark Souls for 3 seconds.
Oh goodness.
Oh God, QuickTime events can just be so, especially if they're like extended cutscenes and you just never know quite when they end, and they can be anywhere from like, oh God, how long is this sequence where I'm gonna have to like a QuickTime event?
Yeah.
Like, is it just until the UI comes back? Is it gonna go into another cutscene? Like,
Rose, do you mean Revan in SWTOR? Is that what you're referring to? Because I feel like, actually there was a game that I did kind of enjoy. It was, I don't know that I would still enjoy the gameplay now, but when at the time, it's a game called, hold on, it'll come back to me, the Indigo Prophecy, or in some cases it was called Fahrenheit, where there was mostly a lot of QuickTime events in these like cool like cutscene type sequences, but your QuickTime events were unrelated to what was going on. It wasn't like mash this button. It was like, that game is garbage. Listen, I enjoyed it. That is what I. Also, I will just say here. I will. Wait, what are you talking about? Sex in a dumpster?
wait, which game?
Okay, here's what I will humbly request here on Ramblemancy. I request that when we engage in like discourse about things here, we like, regardless of how you feel about a game, I'd like to know what you disliked about the game, but just sort of just slamming down like this game is garbage, because like, not because I'm not saying this because I'm offended. Like, you can feel however you want about the game. It's just that I feel like that ends discussion rather than perpetuates it.
Mhm.
So, but what was I saying about, like, I enjoyed like the sort of the way that the leaving us the story aside, the cutscene, like the quick time events were not related, like mash this button a whole bunch of times. It was like pattern recognition and pattern remembering patterns and stuff like that in many cases. And then once you finish that, then it would like play out like these like cool like choreographed cutscene things. Um and they didn't always end, failure didn't always end in you dying. Like often they ended up like forcing you to sort of repeat it until you succeeded. But in the meantime, the way that you failed still resulted in like a cool like cutscene continuation. So like there was some, I don't know, interesting elements to it. I don't know that I would like it now because there's a lot of, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that turned quickly incoherent, but um yeah. Okay, Rose, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, the Revan drama and SWTOR is very meh for me, who has no KOTOR nostalgia. Gotcha. I understand. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I see where you're coming from now. Yeah. I also think that's pretty. That's not great. Where like the drama is not there if you the player don't know what's going on. That's
Mhm.
not great.
Yeah. So just pondering back on because we talked about QuickTime events and like a bunch. I'm just pondering back now on like merging game, like or Orange's original like question about merging like gameplay and story, and thinking about like how that happens. I think it's not really story, but I think hidden load screens are very funny sometimes. Like every so like the if to reference back to Tomb Raider, like yes, crawl underneath this log and it will slow you down, and like you have to do this for a second, and I'm like yes, a load screen that isn't designed to look like a load screen. It makes me feel like I am advancing in the game, and I am, but I am also advancing in the game's files.
Let's see. You know what game? You know what games do QuickTime events really well? Light gun games. House of the Dead, for example. I don't know that I know these. That's
No, I'm
interesting.
not familiar with those.
What? How are they different than like normal QuickTime events? Kind of the way that you normally see QuickTime events applied. I'm curious. Um. Hmm. 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 Sorry, I'm catching up on chat here. Um. Yeah. um. I'm trying to think of like I'm kind of going back to Ike's question about the or Orange's question, sorry, about gameplay merging merging with like story. I've been sitting here like sort of sitting on that thinking about it, and I honestly am not sure I have an answer for that one. Um yeah, I'm not sure I have a good answer for that.
I don't know that I do either. It's one that I'm gonna have to
Mhm.
think about for a little while. And because if you don't manage to kill this zombie quick enough, they will kill this scientist, which means they won't give you the passcode for the door, which in turn changes your route through the entire level.
That's cool. That's
That is
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
I do like that kind of like stuff when it comes to games too, like where you fail forward, like okay, now it's going to cost you more or take longer or take you through a different route through the environment.
That's like if anybody's ever played Outward, it's sort of like a fantasy open world kind of a hardcore survival RPG. Um I mean not hardcore, but it is difficult to survive in that game. But when you die, you just you don't die and reload a save. Like you die and then you are taken somewhere. Like maybe you're taken captive by whoever knocked you out, or and then you wake up somewhere and then you have to like do a thing to like get out of the place,
Ooh, that's
escape from them.
cool.
Or maybe like a mysterious rescuer like brought you to a camp and like left you. They'll like leave like healing potions for like a healing potion for you, something that you wouldn't have been able to get through like you know, or would have been hard to get through the normal gameplay or stuff like that. It's really cool, especially if you're playing with another person, because then like only 2-player co-op, which I think is weird, um, but yeah, probably because it's designed to be played split screen or co-op. So
Mhm.
but yeah, like I think that that kind of thing, like the failing forward things in games, is really cool. Um, need to get that shirt that says "I failed forward" now. Yep, absolutely. Here I go, bringing up RDR2 story through gameplay. As the story progresses and Arthur suffers his illness, you notice your stat bars don't stay full as long and drain far quicker, so it becomes more dire. Interesting. That is cool. Um, Wait, no, I have an answer. I have an answer for this.
Mhm.
For Orange's question. Um, this is a very specific one. This is not like a general like, oh yeah, I like when they do this in games, because I've never seen this done in any other game that I've played. Um, but I'm sure there are games that have done something similar or and done it like better or in a more sophisticated way or like made it more pop. But uh, Arkham Asylum Arkham Asylum has this incredible sequence when like you're fighting Scarecrow, where you get dosed with like with the toxin, and like
I've seen you play this sequence.
there's just this scene where it plays through the opening cinematic again. Well, okay, so what actually happens is like, yeah, you're playing through the opening cinematic again, and it only the roles are reversed. Joker is the one driving the Batmobile, and Batman is captive in the Batmobile. They get to it's not Arkham Asylum. They called it it's called something else in this weird, but like everything is like reversed. Like when you get to Arkham, you still play through that opening sequence where you're walking through the asylum, but instead of the warden and Jim Gordon being there, it's like Penguin and or not Penguin, like just like Harley Quinn is there, and like they're the ones in charge of the asylum, and Batman is the one who is the inmate who's being brought in, and you're playing as Joker walking through this sequence. And then it switches, your perspective switches to first person perspective of Batman, and Joker's about to kill you, and it says like move the mouse to dodge the bullet, but like no matter what you do, eventually you will die. And then I don't know if any of you have played, I know some of you have played the Arkham games, but when you die it takes you to this like black screen where like the person or who killed you or like their cronies or whatever, whoever's cronies killed you, walks onto screen. Like it could be Joker or Penguin or whatever, walk on screen, and then they'll like say some line, and it gives you like quit and retry, and it gives you that. And so you go, oh, I failed to dodge properly, and you think it's a quick time event, but really it's just a scripted sort of thing. And then there's like quit and retry, and when you hit retry, it advances the game, and you see like a like totally new thing where you're like there's this like cemetery, and you see like Batman's hand just like come up. It's fucking incredible, because I've never seen a game do that. What's incredible about it is the fact that it used the like meta stuff about the game, right? Like the game menus and whatever, to illustrate the like the maddening effect that the like uh Scarecrow's toxin has on your character, and just gets this just bizarre sequence, this surreal sequence. And it's so good. Like I've never seen a game pull that off in such a particular way, where it like uses the in-game menus as like part of the story. So good.
Yeah, like
It's cool.
that's such a fascinating way to break the fourth wall. Like, well, and I remember also too, like the
Right. Sorry, that's right, Nico.
Mhm.
That whole sequence starts with the game like glitching out. Um, Genuinely, every single time it happens, my heart like stops for a second, because I think the game is crashing and like fucking up my computer. Because we've all been there. Um, Sorry, continue, John.
Yeah, no, I did. Um, It's gone now because I looked over and was reading chat. Matt says there was a boss in the Metal Gear game where you had to change your controller inputs, and then there was another boss that read your memory disk data to try to freak you out.
Wow.
Now you're sorry, and now your game platforms probably just do that as a matter of course.
Yep.
That's actually the same boss. Psycho Mantis. Oh my god. What a man, early video games, huh? Like, how can we freak people the fuck out? Just reference other games that they've played recently.
I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
I hear
happened.
you like Animal Crossing. What? Does he know that?
What were you saying, Freeman?
I'm gonna say, like I've always said before, I always love using flashbacks in any kind of medium, and so I wonder if flashbacks are a thing that could be a good answer for this.
Yeah,
Merging,
I think so.
because, and I don't know. Wait, do I know? I'm sure there's games with flashbacks. Like, hold on,
Yeah. I know.
but I can't think of them right now. Of course.
I know. Star Wars, Jedi Fallen Order does this actually, where
Yeah.
you are playing a flashback and you play Cal, but like during Order 66, um,
Oh wow.
as a Padawan.
The beginning of Horizon Zero Dawn is basically a flashback. Like the first like 30 minutes of gameplay of Horizon Zero Dawn are you playing like as child Aloy, and then you flash back forward to like, I don't know, there's kind of a training. You could maybe argue that you're just playing as child at Aloy, and then the
Right,
game just
yeah.
like just rapidly ages you into like the main character of the story. But I don't know, that's like hazy territory, I guess. But
The beginning of The Last of Us. Oh no, Ike. Why? Why would you do this to us? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
think of like other games that I've played that have flashback. And I know there's been quite a few of them.
in my Steam library,
I don't know if it counts, but I know all the Call of Duty games kind of jump back and forth. I don't know. I don't think that really counts though.
I think
But there's confusing sometimes.
yeah, I think flashbacks definitely count in like the kind of thing, because it is, you're using
Yeah.
gameplay for storytelling, right? Like that the
Mhm.
gameplay is the storytelling in that case, right? Because you're playing through, like a flashback is a narrative element. It's a narrative device, and then playing through a narrative device is, I think, probably the purest form of blending gameplay and storytelling.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, yeah. That's a yeah.
Heck yeah, for sure.
Nico says the sorrow in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is an amazing boss. You walk down a river and are haunted by the ghosts of every living being you have killed in the game so far, with them appearing in ways that related to the way you killed them. Burned a guy to death, he'll run at you burning and screaming. Snap the guy's neck, he'll shamble towards you with his head hanging off. Oh my god.
Horrifying. That does kind of
Abs-
remind me of Shadow of Mordor though, and Shadow of War. Right? Like how the like when you like kill orc captains, they'll come back later, and they come back later with like they'll have like scars and like modifications based on like how you defeated them last time. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Resident Evil 7 has a playable flashback, apparently. Is that, which one is?
There's so many. I
There's
can't
so
keep
many
track of which.
There's so many Resident Evil games.
There's some. Does Resident Evil do the thing where some of them are unnumbered, but they like are still count in the continuity, but then some of them are unnumbered and don't count in like the
I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah.
That's like, yeah, that's
Madness.
like I hate when okay, this is so not at all what we were talking about, but it pisses me off to no end when game franchises do this, where they're like, one, 2, and then the third one has like a subtitle instead of a number, and then the next one they do is 3. Looking at you, Assassin's Creed. Just like it's like Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed. Wait, what came after Assassin's Creed 2? Was it Brotherhood? No. What came after Assassin's Creed 2? Anyway, and then like after like 3 other games, then they're like Assassin's Creed 3. I'm like, that's not how this works. Like
That was really
Assassin's
confusing.
Creed-
Still
Assassin's-
is.
There's Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Revelations, then 3,
Then
then
3.
4, which also had a Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
Yep.
Right.
And then there was Assassin's Creed Rogue, followed by Assassin's Creed Unity, Syndicate, Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla. Okay, so now they're not doing numbers.
They're not doing
anymore.
numbers
It's-
anymore.
yeah.
They've abandoned the whole counting thing. They're like 1, 2, 3. Those are all the numbers you'll need for Assassin's Creed.
Mm.
Coincidentally,
we shouldn't
also
have
the number of decent games in this franchise of like 8 games. No, sorry. That's
I mean,
Taking shots. Black Flag has to go on there just for the sea shanties, right? Like it has to get a pass just for the shanties, right?
the thing is, not for the shanties, and I'll tell you why it doesn't get a pass for the shanties.
uh,
It would get a pass for the shanties, so that's
Mhm.
+1. But then you have to go around collecting fragments of shanties. So
No,
sort of-
idiot.
those
It's
sort
a
of
net
cancel
neutral.
out. They cancel out.
I mean, it's Ubisoft.
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, that's super unrelated. It's just me airing my grievances about games and their like counting metrics. So like, I don't know. I hate that shit.
Ellie, or as much as I love the franchise, Kingdom Hearts across multiple consoles and all canon. Yeah, every so often my roommate will start telling me about the Kingdom Hearts canon, and then the Kingdom Hearts like they apparently recently there's been like a teaser for a new Kingdom Hearts game, and they're like doing a particular kind of story, but it was like a minute long trailer, and Robin was just telling me about the just hour long videos of people doing analysis of this shit and diving like deep into just the absolutely wild lore that spans all of the games across all these consoles. So
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Matt. With Black Flag, I also couldn't exactly get into Black Flag, but you know what? You know what the thing with for me and Black Flag is that I didn't care about the story, and every time I tried to follow the main story, that's when I slowed down. My interest sort of cooled, but whenever I was just like roaming around being a pirate, that's when it was dope. I love that part of like Black Flag, but unfortunately, as cool as it is, it's not enough to like keep me in there. Plus, I played Black Flag a couple years, like in 2020 for the first time, and by that point it felt pretty dated, so it had that sort of okay, airing, not to throw like a bunch of shit at Assassin's Creed, but also completely to do that. The thing about Assassin's Creed, I think Assassin's Creed needs to figure out. They need to admit to themselves that what they that what they want to be doing is making a role playing game, and just commit to that shit. And that's why I liked Odyssey, because Odyssey felt like they finally committed to making a role playing game. They just need to commit to that.
yeah. Ike also makes a compelling point. I hate when games reboot and use the same name. I like Battlefront 2. Which one? You guess.
Yes, also in yes. Especially if they do both of those things, where there's like 1, 2, subtitle, 3, 2 somehow. Like I hate that shit. They make Desmond kill Lucy. They did what now? I'm sorry. I didn't I played Assassin's Creed 1, like 2 hours of Assassin's Creed 2, and then I played Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and then I went back and played a little bit of Black Flag. So I never actually saw the end of the Desmond storyline, but that's some bullshit.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what else? Speaking of shit that I'm throwing at this. While I'm up here on this soapbox labeled shit to throw at Assassin's Creed, I think Assassin's Creed needs to abandon the frame. They need to abandon the whole like you're in the future, but also like the entire game takes place in the past because you're using advanced future technology to be in the past. Like that worked until Desmond was no longer in the picture. Now you just need to like just abandon it. Just get rid of it. I think people will be okay with you just playing an assassin in a historic time period. I think you're good.
Yeah. I mean, unless, again, the thing about frame narratives is that unless the frame is equally as important as what's happening inside it, you don't need a frame narrative.
You don't need a frame narrative.
You don't need a frame narrative.
I think they could have. I think collectively the Assassin's Creed audience would be completely fine if they were just playing a series of games in like historical time periods as an assassin who runs around murdering everybody. I think that's fine. I think everybody would be okay with that. They scaled it down a lot. I know, but that's exactly my problem with it. They scaled it down to a point where it makes it like it's like, why is this here? Yeah, I also think so, Edgefit. I think they are trying to like sort of slowly like wean us off, like as if somehow we're anyway. They're trying to wean, like I guess they're weaning themselves off the frame narrative. Like, listen, dev team, I know you're addicted to frame narratives, but like we need to stop. We care about you. And anyway,
It just like they come in like with the all. We got to talk about the frame narratives.
Okay, we are sort of at the end of our time here.
We did it.
We did it. I don't know why I paused like that. I think I was hoping that a bit would ensue, but my brain just shut off. So, this is the end of the show for the evening. We thanks everybody for coming and hanging out and chatting with us. I saw a lot of conversations tonight. Okay, hold on. A lot of good conversations tonight. Thank you so much, everybody. We will return you now to. Here we go.
All right, good. Yes. All right. I'm gonna. Yep. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming to Ramblemancy tonight. It's been an excellent show. We turn you now back over to Steve the Stegosaurus, who will give us our lead-out announcements. Next week, we are looking at a regular week of programming. On Tuesday, there will be an episode of In Too Deep at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, Infinite Horizon at 6 p.m. Pacific. And this very show, Ramblemancy, here next Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Thank you very much for everyone for coming. This has been Steve.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much, everybody. Y'all have been great. As always. We will see you hopefully on Tuesday for In Too Deep, because we've been all very cursed the last few weeks, In Too Deep and Infinite Horizon. We'll hopefully see you on Tuesday for In Too Deep. But if not, we will see you the next time you decide to come roll with us. Good night and good zone, everybody.